Hi, Facebook. Happy Friday. This is Janet from Basic Organization, and I wanted to say have a great day. And I had a couple of days ago posted a short live video telling you that today I was going to talk about what you want to leave as your legacy. And I'm going to feature a couple of books that I've read recently on this topic. The first one I was going to talk about is one that is called They Left Us Everything. Let me show you the whole thing. And this is a book, a woman who is a writer wrote the book about her experience cleaning out her mother's house after her mother passed away. She lived an hour and a half from her mom. Her mother lived in a very large house on a lake where they raised their family. This woman was one of 5 children, but she was the only daughter to her parents. So she goes into detail about the life that her family lived in this house, and the troubles maybe the experience with death that her family had. She had a brother who passed away, and the family had cared for him in the house while he was very ill. And then her father had dementia, and he eventually passed away also while the family was caring for him. But as her mother aged, she became the caregiver. She had several brothers that had moved out of the area, and so she was the one that had kind of kept everything going. And she did talk about how she lost the mother she remembers from earlier in life, as her mother died very old, and she changed a lot in the last couple of years of her life. But once her mother was gone, she was tasked to cleaning out the house, and really because the rest of her siblings were supportive and visited and helped, but she was the one that was close. She also worked as a writer, so she could work from wherever she lived. So a job that she thought was going to take a few months actually ended up taking her a year and a half. She disrupted her life and moved into this house. Because one thing she talks about is her parents kept everything, and so it was left to her to make sense of what was left in this family home. So I wanted to read a couple excerpts from the book so you could identify what she was going through. So first, she was tasked herself to deal with all of the items in the house except the books. She had a brother who wanted to document the books. They all were huge readers, and there were thousands of books, but he inventoried all of the books and dealt with those. But she dealt with everything else. So she wrote, "I decided to make a photo album of the interior of the house. I wanted to record every detail before we lost it all. With my camera, I take a close-up of the dining room wallpaper, the hole in the upstairs window screen, the white porcelain doorknob, and the door to the basement, the latch on the back of the door, the wicker mail basket, the crack in the chimney plaster, the drawer pulls in the pantry. All of these things that she grew up with, that she knew that she was preparing this house to sell it, and she was afraid she was going to forget all those things." And then a couple of paragraphs later, she wrote, "I get the feeling my brothers are worried about me. I sense they're having telephone conversations behind my back because Victor's been making pointed remarks about my state of mind a little too often. He's all pulled up with confidence when he delivers them, as if he has the authority of the crowd behind him. Maybe I am going off the deep end, but how would I know? What I'm doing just feels right. I feel responsible for our memories. I don't want them to disappear into thin air." So she's letting you know throughout the book how challenged she is to go through all of these memories, and she feels responsible for the entire family's memories. So after she kind of completes this inventory, and her brother does the same, she talks about this. "I've given everyone an annotated inventory list, complete with photographs. There are 422 items, running 81 pages long. There are 2 categories, one for all the furnishings that have been appraised and priced, one for all the historical items that we consider priceless. Things like the family portraits, the pair of epaulets from World War II, the plastic sign of the gun in the mudroom window, the antique ship's gong that used to hang on the wall in the pantry. So all of these small items have such memory to her that she wants to give her siblings and herself the ability to decide what to do with all of these small things. And she does speak in the book about how she regrets that her parents left it all for them to do. And so the last thing I wanted to read to you about this is at the end of the book when the process is finally done and she's coming to terms with all of the work that she's done on this house. This house with this setting is part of me, seared into my bones like fossil on rock. It's more a true ancestor than any of those we've never met. It's held our blood in its veins. Some of us have been born here, married here, died here. Nothing can ever take it away. I can't resist taking one more walk through. I'm now seeing the house empty, exactly the way my mother first saw it all those years ago when she was 36 years old, standing here imagining all the possibilities and the love she could breathe into a life for us here. I realized that Mom was the house. All this time, she kept speaking to me. I listened to the waves lapping rhythmically across the shore, like the breathing of my mother's heart. And I hear, nothing lasts forever, darling. But this is everything. So it's a really poignant book. If you're going through this process or you think you're going to have to go through this process, you might want to read it. Let me show it to you again. They left us everything. It's not sad. She tells you how she's feeling, and she is sad at times, but it is a really interesting, cute, heartwarming as well. She talks about how the relationship is with her and her brothers going through this process too, which is a good thing to learn. The second book, which also coincides with this, is The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning, which is kind of an unusual name for a book. And if you've never heard of it, in the organizer world, we really have, or my opinion, let's say, is that this is going to be the next big thing. And Marie Kondo has done her thing, and so many people have downsized their possessions by watching her show or reading her books. This is going to be the next thing because people are deciding that living with less is okay. So this is written by a woman that is doing her own downsizing and deciding what she is going to leave for her children as her legacy. Now, in her kind of explanation about how she's doing this and why she's doing this is she does talk about that she has done Swedish death cleaning 3 times. The first time she did it at her parents' house after they had passed away, which is really what the first book was talking about as well. And then she did it for her mother-in-law for the same reason after she had passed away. Then her husband has passed, and so she has decided that she's going to do it for herself now. So she's going through everything in her house, possession-wise, and really making those decisions beforehand, asking the questions of her children or other family members or friends on what items they would like to have, and then also deciding on all that little stuff that really she can decide whether it doesn't have meaning to her now, so she can get rid of it now. So there's quite a few excerpts that I'd like to read on this, but I think it's really enlightening on how you can really embolden yourself and give yourself the power to make those decisions. And one thing I will, in one of these quotes, it's in there again, but I just found this delightful. She several times says she is between 80 and 100 years old. So you are never too old to start this process. and to do it for yourself. You don't have to think like, I can't do it, I'm going to leave it for somebody else. So the first thing I thought was enlightening was, she says, do not ever imagine that anyone will wish or be able to schedule time off to take care of what you didn't bother to take care of yourself. No matter how much they love you, don't leave this burden to them, which is really insightful. I think more power to her that she realized that this was her responsibility. So she considers it a job because it's going to take a lot of time. So this new job of yours will not be accomplished any faster if you wait. But with a little practice and preparation, it will certainly be easier for you to make decisions about how to get rid of things. Trust me, the more time you spend going through your belongings, the easier it will be for you to decide what to keep and what not to. The more you work at it, the less time-consuming it will become. You might even discover the added bonus that it will feel wonderful to visit a dump and throw worthless things as far as you're able to, which I think was so cute. So she does say, and I see this with a lot of clients we work with, is they're so hesitant in the beginning and they just don't know how to go through the process. But then they learn how to do it and they strengthen their decision-making muscles and it becomes easier. And they also, you do a little, you live with it, you realize like the world's not going to end and you're not going to be looking for those items that you just donated or discarded last week, that it's okay. It's okay not to have all those things. So what is considered death cleaning is something that you do on your own. Now, she says also in the book, it would have been incredibly nice to have my husband's company to help me go through emptying our house. My third death cleaning, but it was impossible. He was dead. All my kids came home for the funeral, but the death cleaning took almost a year. I worked at a steady pace on my own. I kept in mind comments from my children about certain objects they adored and held on to these items to give them later, while cleaning out other things that nobody cared about. So she was empowering herself to make those decisions. If I had to ask my children and their spouses for assistance, I am sure they would have done their utmost to help me, but I did not ask. 3 of them had small children, and they had jobs in places such as the United States, Africa, and Japan, far away from my little house on the west coast of Sweden. It would have been too much to organize a visit for my children and their children and all their bags. Besides, I hate to ask for help. To go through all the things that documented our life together, 50 years of mostly ups and downs and 5 kids, by myself made me feel very lonely. My husband and I should have done this together, starting at 65, maybe even earlier, when we were stronger and our health was better. But everyone thinks they'll live forever. And she's absolutely right. I think you should start early. I think 65 might be a good age for you. If it's younger, maybe it's when your kids leave home and you're now an empty nester and you can start getting rid of some things. Maybe it's old sports equipment or stuff that your children used to use, but they're never going to use it again. So go ahead and let it go. If you have any hesitation, go ahead and send them a text or an email or call them and say, do you want this stuff? If so, I'll hang on to it for you. But a lot of times they've already made that decision. They've moved on in their life, but they haven't told you yet about the items they don't want anymore. So another excerpt from the book. If you decide to downsize your home, it's a good thing not to be in a hurry. If possible, you should take your time and proceed at a pace that suits you. It will be absorbing, but also tiring sometimes. But it is important that you don't overdo it. When you remember the money that you're saving by doing it yourself, and all the time that you will save your family and friends who will not have to do it for you. It will really make you feel that the work you are doing is worth it. And she is. She's giving her children such a gift by starting this process now and giving them less to do after she's gone. But she's also correct in that it takes a lot of time to do. And especially the older you get, the slower it probably goes for you. So consider starting early and make it a project to go through a space and get rid of the stuff that, you know, the hobbies you no longer do, or the old luggage, or the old, you know, the old stuff that might be in your storage room or your basement that you know you haven't used in a really long time. And if you don't, seek help from an organizer. So a couple more quotes I'd like to read for you. One autumn, a couple of years ago, I decided to do something with the slides. I bought a little film scanner and spent most of my spare time going through them. Pictures from when my oldest son was born and the following 25 years. With the help of the scanner, I moved all the pictures I wanted to share to my computer and then exported them to a USB memory stick for each child. It was really amazing how much a little USB memory stick, not even 2 inches long, can hold. I was happy to have Christmas presents that year, and I often suggest that to family. Get your old photos, if you have slides, same thing, scanned, and give them to your kids as a Christmas gift. It is a very long, arduous process to do. If you do it yourself, you certainly can hire other companies, which we could refer to you if you want to do that. But then it's done, and they've been shared with everyone can share them, which is fabulous, and they will last. Which actually, paper photos don't last forever, so you might want to do it if you are the kind of archivist for the family. But I also want to point out that, as she said, she was between 80 and 100. She was willing to learn the technology to be able to do this for her family. So one other thing she says is, I've already made the point that death cleaning is something you should do so your children and other loved ones will not have to deal with all your stuff. While I think this motivation is a very important one, it is not the full story. Death cleaning is also something you can do for yourself, for your own pleasure. And if you start early, at say 65, it won't seem like a huge task when you, like me, are between 80 and 100. One's own pleasure and the chance to find meaning and memory is the most important thing. It is a delight to go through things and remember their worth. And if you don't remember why a thing has meaning, or why you kept it, it has no worth, and it will be easier for you to part with. I think that's a very, very wise statement. The more I focused on my cleaning, the braver I have become. I often ask myself, will anyone I know be happier if I save this? Now, at this moment, she's talking about paper in her house, documents. If after a moment of reflection, I can honestly answer no, then it goes into a hungry shredder, always waiting for paper to chew. But before it goes into the shredder, I have had a moment to reflect on the event or feeling, bad or good, and on how that has been a part of my story of my life. So I think both of these women are very wise, and both of the books can be very enlightening for you if you're going through this process, whether you are doing it for yourself or you're having to do it for a loved one who has passed. There are a few more books that I have hung on to that I thought were really great, kind of about this kind of topic as well. One is The Boomer Burden by Julie Hall. And as you can see, dealing with your parents' lifetime accumulation of stuff. Very good insight. Then if you're going to work yourself, Downsizing Your Life Simplifying your surroundings while keeping up with what matters most. And the last one is scaling down. Same thing, living large in a small space, which if you're considering doing the downsizing yourself, doing the Swedish death cleaning yourself, you don't have to move. It's just eliminating what is not necessary in your life. So if you have any questions, I would be happy to talk to you about this subject. You can message me on Facebook, or you can email me. My email is janet@basicorganization.com. We have a team of organizers that are here ready to help clients in Northern Virginia and Washington, D.C. We do a lot of downsizing for clients and helping them move. We do packing and unpacking as well. And if you would also like, you can go onto our website, basicorganization.com. There's a button there where you can schedule a discovery call with me as well. That's free. I'd be happy to talk to you and to help you through this process if you need some help. Thank you. Have a great Friday. Bye.